guys, it's been a while. In today's episode, I am going to share some finished objects with you as well as a fun knitting news story. So grab your knitting and let's go have some fun. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I am Jessie Pellet, also known as That MN Yarn Girl, and as you might have guessed, I live in Minnesota with my husband, who I call husband, my 13-year-old son Thaden, and our two lovely kitties, Zuli and Mia. Now, before I get going today, I really have to apologize because it's been like a month and a half since I've podcast, and that was not my intent. Life just got a little bit crazy. I don't know what happened, but I am here today and I want to let you know that my plan going forward is to podcast at least once a month, hopefully the first Wednesday of every month. That is my goal going forward so that I don't get behind like I did this time, because I miss you guys. It's a lot of fun doing this. Also, I would like to say thank you because I have reached 100 subscribers, which may sound small to some people, but to me it is huge. I am so excited to have 100 subscribers. It also means that I can have a shortcut URL that is actually just That MN Yarn Girl versus a whole bunch of numbers and digits and things that aren't really related to my channel. So thank you, thank you, thank you to all of you who have subscribed. It means so much to me. I am so excited that there are 100 people that want to come and hang out with me, and well, more than 100 people now that want to come and hang out with me and hear about my knitting adventures. So thank you, thank you. And also I'd like to say, if you are a new viewer, welcome and thank you for checking me out. Okay, I've got a couple housekeeping items to discuss. First item is, if you have been following my journey to a master knitter level 1, please know that I will be posting an update as soon as I hear anything. I'm waiting very anxiously to find out how my submission went and what I will need to do in order to pass level 1. It has been 9 weeks now since I sent that out, and they say it takes 6 to 8 weeks, but it can take a little longer if you send it during the holidays, which I did. So, but please be assured that as soon as I know, I do plan on posting a final update to that, or maybe even a couple, because I'll probably post an update once I get my results back, and then I'll post an update when I send in my resubmission. So please know that that is coming, and as soon as I know, you'll know. The next bit of housekeeping is to say congratulations to Nanita NYC. She is the winner of the chatter thread for the Improve Along. Unfortunately, I did not have any photos submitted for the finished objects thread, so she is the only winner that we have. And Nanita, I have some lovely progress keepers here for you. The first is a nice little progress keeper that has a picture. It's a little picture charm. And then, so you could put whatever kind of picture that you want in there. Next, I have a little coffee cup progress keeper, because who doesn't love coffee or tea or something? And finally, because I'm obsessed with kitties, I have a little kitty progress keeper. So Nanita, please get in touch with me on Ravelry and I would be happy to send you those lovely progress keepers. And congratulations and thank you for submitting a comment on the chatter thread of the Improve Along. So on that note, I would also like to let you know that I am doing away with the Improve Along, but instead changing it up and just going to call it the Fearless Knitter Cal. And rather than picking the topic for you, I would like you to pick what you would like to do. So the rules for this Cal are: 1, try a brand new technique, new to you, that you've never done before, and 2, only submit 1 photo per project to the finished objects thread. That being said, you can submit as many projects as you would like, as long as it is a new technique to you every time. And if you're not sure where to start or what kind of techniques you want to work on, or if you're looking for a buddy to work with you, or maybe you just need some encouragement, then head on over to the chatter thread and get some great ideas. So I look forward to seeing what you guys have and hearing about all of your new projects and new things you're learning. So that's all I've got for housekeeping. Let's move on into finished objects and works in progress. Alright guys, I know it's been way too long since I've done this, but the fun part of that is that I have a couple of really exciting finished objects to share. First one being what I'm wearing. And this is the lovely Building with Lace shawl by Knit Pearl Hunter, and the yarn is Hikoo Rylie and the color is Northern Lights. It's a DK weight and it's a baby alpaca silk linen blend. It's super soft and luxurious and it is perfect for this project. And this was a super fun project. I started this project a year ago. I started, well, more now, but it took me a little over a year to finish this project. I took a class at a local yarn shop, Unwind Yarn Shop, and it was a lot of fun to do it in the class setting because each month we would learn a different lace style. And I really liked that I would be able to work on the project and then put it down and work on something else and then go and pick it back up. So even though it was a long project, it didn't feel too terribly long because it was intentional that I put it down every once in a while and then would pick it back up. And this, again, it was super fun to knit. Let me pull it off here so that you can see the whole thing. Like I said, you can see that there are 10 different panels, 10 different lace patterns. Some of it has the middle pattern and the border has beads in it, and they do get a little bit harder. It was not difficult though. It seemed like it was really intimidating and I felt like it would be really difficult, but it starts out relatively easy. This last panel has lace knitting on both the right side and the wrong side, so it wasn't difficult, but it was a little bit more intense to try to keep track of that. And the border was also not very hard, even though you might think, ooh, beads, but beads are super, super simple, and it would be a great thing if you've never tried beads. I would strongly encourage it for the Fearless Knitter Cow because they are a lot of fun. They add such a beautiful detail to your project, and like I said, not at all difficult. It seems difficult, but they are not difficult. So this, again, is the finish of my year-long project, the Building with Lace shawl by Knit Pearl Hunter. And this, I finished this at a knitting retreat in January, and that was a lot of fun. It was a great project to finish there because, again, I had just been working on it for a year, and so to be able to finish it, and we had a gong that every time someone finished a project, they got to ring the gong, and it felt like it was such an accomplishment and such a great place to finish that project. So that is the Building with Lace by Knit Pearl Hunter, yarn Hikoo Rylie in Northern Lights. Okay, so the next finished object that I want to share with you is the sweater that I was working on for my husband for Christmas. It did not get done in time for Christmas, but I got it to maybe the second week of January, first or second week of January, I don't remember. And that is the Big Lebowski sweater. It's called The Knitter's Dude by Andrea Rangel Knits. And this was a lot of fun to work on. And the reason I don't actually have it here to show you is because my husband wears it pretty much every day. He wears it all the time. He loves it so much. So he wears it to work, and so therefore I do not have it to be able to hold up in front of you and show you, but I will pop some pictures over here of my handsome husband modeling the sweater. And it was, like I said, a ton of fun to knit because it was kind of separated up into different sections. You know, you had your ribbing section and then just a tiny section of your main color, and then it would split up into color work, and then it would go into your main color, and it was just a variety. So every time you would get through to the next section, you just felt like you had gotten an accomplishment, and it was a lot of fun. I haven't done a ton of color work, so it was great color work practice, especially since there's only 2 different colors within the color work parts, and there was a few times where it required longer floats, but it didn't feel like it was too daunting or anything like that. And so I love this sweater. I would strongly recommend it, especially if you are a fan or know a fan of the movie The Big Lebowski. It was so much fun, and he, like I said, just loves it. He wears it all the time. And one of my favorite details of this sweater is these buttons that I got, and I actually purchased these over a year ago on Etsy from Leather Goods Company. And they are custom buttons that say hand knit by Jessie. It's so much fun to be able to put those on a project, especially if you're giving it to someone else. And he loves that too, that it actually has those custom buttons on his sweater. So it was a lot of fun to knit this. It's a lot of fun to see him wearing it. Like I said, the pattern is The Knitter's Dude by Andrea Rangel Knits. And the yarn is Brooklyn Tweed Shelter, Fossil, Nest, and Cast Iron. It was a great finished object to start the year off with. I only have 1 works in progress to share with you, but before I show it off, I have a little bit of backstory to share. So back in November, I submitted an entry for a design contest through the Minnesota Knitters Guild. The Minnesota Knitters Guild every year holds an event, a weekend-long event in April called Yarn Over, and there's knitting classes and all kinds of fun. They were looking for a shawl pattern that they could feature as part of the event, and the design call went out last fall. So I crossed my fingers and sent in a submission, and I won. It was pretty exciting. I got picked to create a shawl for the Yarn Over Festival. The design submission that I submitted is called the Spring Forest. So the idea for Spring Forest is to have stitch patterns that showcase the evolvement of the budding leaves on trees every spring. I thought because Yarn Over is in the spring, it just seemed like a fun thing to have on a shawl. So let me show you what I've got. And this has taken me a long time because I had worked up a couple swatches that I submitted, and then after I won the contest, I went back and looked at my swatches, and there was a couple things I wasn't happy about. So I changed one thing, and then when I changed that, then I didn't like the way it worked with other things, and it was kind of a snowball effect. And it took a really long time. But I finally came to a pattern, a stitch pattern that I'm quite pleased with. And down here on the bottom row is the first section. It's just supposed to be 2 little buds coming up off the tree. And then in the second area, it will be those little buds opening up. And then this final stitch pattern is the leaves of the trees, and these 3 segments will just repeat for a couple times, and then I plan to do a cable that looks like the trunk of a tree and a border that represents the roots of a tree. And so that is my Spring Forest shawl that I've been working on. It has taken a long time to get me to this place where I have found something I'm happy with, but now that I've gotten here, I think it will fly because I really like it. I've enjoyed this, and I love the colors. I decided to pick a Minnesota dyer, so I am using yarns by Lavender Lune, and this first colorway is called Interstate Love, and then the next one is Moonsap, and then the final color will be Smooshy Pear. And I just love how, like, it starts off kind of like pinks and peaches and a little bit of purple, and then there's some, again, more like peaches, and greens, and then ending in like greens and browns. And I feel like it's just kind of the colors that you would see in the springtime in the forest, like the greens on like near the forest, the greens and browns near the floor, and then evolving up into like the pinks and purples and peachy colors. And so, but it's kind of a subtle fade. So I'm very excited for this shawl, and I am very excited to share my progress with you. This I have to have complete by next Tuesday, which, like I said, I am no longer worried, because now that I have something that I am quite pleased with, I think it's just going to fly off the needles. And I will share my updates with you on Instagram. So if you are wanting to see the way that this turns out, the way it looks as it progresses, just find That MN Yarn Girl on Instagram and follow the story along. So that is my work in progress that I have. Like I said, it's the only thing I've got right now, but it has been keeping me busy because I've been trying to find something that I really, really liked. Okay, so that brings us to Knit Happens. And in this segment, I have a fun story about a woman who turned her commuting frustrations into some knitting fun. But it also kind of highlights her commuting frustrations. So this story was posted in January by the woman's daughter. This woman lives in Munich, Germany, and she takes the train to work every day. For an entire year, she decided to basically document her train commute delays with her knitting. So I don't know if you guys have seen those temperature scarves, but temperatures kind of split up into increments of 10 or 20, and you pick a color for each increment, and then you knit a row or two based on what the recorded temperature was that day. And so by the end of the year, you have this neat scarf or blanket or whatever you want to do that kind of documents the temperatures of the year, which is really cool. I've heard people that have done it that said that it was a lot of fun to do, but they would never do it again. So this woman, she did a similar thing with her commute. So every time she was delayed, and I've got to look at my notes here to remember this for sure, but if she was delayed 5 minutes or less, she used dark gray. Light pink was for delays between 5 and 30 minutes, and more than 30-minute delays were done in red. And as you can see, there's actually a lot more red in this scarf than you would ever hope. It said it took her 6 rolls of yarn to complete this scarf, and only half of those were the dark gray, which was 5 minutes or less. She paid 175 in euros for her train pass, which is about $281 US. So, you know, she paid a decent amount for her train pass, and yet, as you can see, she was delayed quite frequently. 1 row of knitting equaled 1 commute, so 2 rows was for the whole day. And it's just another fun way of documenting, you know, our frustrations, but maybe if we're knitting, we hopefully are feeling a little less frustrated. So I just thought that was a great story and wanted to share it with you guys. Finally, we have tips, tricks, and hacks. And today with tips, tricks, and hacks, I just want to show you how to use a few household items to make your knitting life easier. So to start with, this trick I learned when I was at the knitting retreat, and I was working on my Building with Lace Shawl and working on the beaded border. And Jeannie, one of my friends from Knit Night, who was at the retreat, she saw me working on my shawl and said, you know, a great trick for beading is to use double-sided tape to get your beads to be less roly-poly. So she had actually had a old CD case that she had covered in double-sided tape, and that's where she put her beads. But for me, it also worked. I always use these little tins to keep my notions, like my needles and my markers, and I had just opened and just had laid my beads on here as I was going along. And so she gave me some double-sided tape, which I then laid down on the top lid, And when you pour in your beads, they just kind of stick. And as you can see, like my stuff up here is rolling around, but my beads just kind of stay right there. And it's really nice, but it's not too sticky, so then you could just take your crochet hook as you're going along and pick them up, and it works really, really well. So thank you, Jeannie, for that tip. The other tip I have as far as household items that help out for knitting is if you take old wine corks and put them on the ends of your knitting needles. It works as a nice little stopper, a little end cap for your knitting needles so that your knitting won't come off. So another excuse to drink more wine so that you can just, have more knitting tools. So those are the tips, tricks, and hacks for this month. Alright guys, that is all I've got for today, but I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me. And remember, you can also find me on Instagram, Ravelry, and Facebook, all as That MN Yarn Girl. And if you like what you saw here today, please like, subscribe, and comment below. It does a lot to help out my channel. And again, thank you so much to all of my subscribers who helped me reach 100 subscribers. It means the world to me. And with that, I will leave you with a picture of a cat and hat. This cat is called Howdy, and it is my cousin's roommate's cat. And the hat was knit by my Aunt Dee, and she knit it in ISU colors because that's where the cat's humans go to school. So thanks for the photo, Dee. Bye.